There's a fascination always as legends fade, to watch how they rage against the diminution of their own powers, to see embodied in one shrugging, pouting frame, the eternal human battle with mortality. And at the Euros, all the melodrama unraveled before a cult, filled with an undying obsession and the sacrifice of a generation at the altar of self-indulgence. This is a story about Ronaldo, an obsessive cult, and a rage against time itself. If two English people pass each other in a wooden area, there's a 99% chance one or both of them will say, "Good morning." If two Portuguese people pass each other at a Portugal game, there's a 99% chance one or both of them will say, That was the scene ahead of Portugal's opening game of the Euro 2024 against Czech Republic. The team entered the tournament as one of the favorites to win the competition. They won all 10 qualifying matches and look revitalized under new manager Roberto Martinez. They have a squad that is the envy of almost an entire continent. And yet, in the lead up to every game, the primary focus was on a 39-year-old striker who plays in the 27th best league in the world. To his own credit, that is the endearing power of Cristiano Ronaldo. His shirts worn by fans outnumber any other player by around 10-1. Even during warm-ups, fans watched his every movement, cheered the goals he scored and lamented the shots he missed. Yet, no other player was taken notice of. There was even an Al Nassr top with Ronaldo 7 on the back being worn in the press box at the Euros. Neutrality doesn't exist when it comes to the cult of Ronaldo. And there was also another Instagram influencer who picks up her phone and starts filming whenever Ronaldo's on the ball, with carefully orchestrated reactions following even his most mundane acts. One YouTuber even has an entire personality out of Ronaldo. That is the industry created out of the religion of CR7. There's a soap opera surrounding Ronaldo that will never cease, no matter how old he gets. This is a man who isn't just admired, respected, celebrated, and valued all over the world. He is adored. There are fanatics who are devoted to Ronaldo's mere existence. And it is through the clamor, noise, and circus around Ronaldo, Portugal becomes reduced to a supporting role, dwarfed by a legend of their own upbringing. But Portugal aren't completely innocent, when they themselves are stirring up the circus surrounding Ronaldo. Just a year and a half ago at the Qatar World Cup, former Portugal manager Fernando Santos dropped Ronaldo in the round of 16 match against Switzerland, and rightfully so, having only scored 2 goals in his last 12 international games and struggling for good performance. It was only fair others got the chance. After all, the chaos Ronaldo conjured after being subbed versus South Korea was only fueling the fire surrounding him. But in the midst of the opportunity, Gonçalo Ramos capitalized and scored a hat-trick, vindicating the manager's decision. But on just the next game, Portugal were eliminated by Morocco, with Ronaldo playing the second half. And with that, the Portuguese FA decided to remove Santos from his position, the manager that won the only trophy in the country's history and also the first ever Nations League. Why? He had performed the blasphemous act of benching the idol that is Cristiano Ronaldo. That is how the cult of Ronaldo works, even within the Portuguese circle. The obsession never ends. Even when it was right in front of them to see, Santos had merely done what's right for the team. And what happened next? They brought in a manager that would put Ronaldo on a pedestal at the expense of a better suited players. In spite of playing in Saudi Arabia and lacking in form, Martinez not only kept Ronaldo in the mix, but made him the front and center of his new era, and even fielded him in 9 of the 10 qualifiers for the Euros. When asked why Ronaldo was selected for the tournament last summer, he simply replied Ronaldo was selected on merit, not reputation, pointing out that Cristiano was the top scorer of the qualifiers, with 10 goals. It's true, and at surface level, that seems like an extraordinary feat. But then when you examine how those goals came, you start to question it again. 5 of Ronaldo's 10 qualifier goals came against Luxembourg and Liechtenstein. And since the World Cup, he has played 14 games while scoring 12, but 10 of those goals came against teams ranked 60th or lower in the FIFA ranking, with the 2 other coming against Slovakia ranked 45th. You have to go 3 years back to find an opponent he faced and scored against ranked higher. Those are just two nations, Switzerland 19th and Qatar 35th. But of course, this is not a plea to say Ronaldo shouldn't have been selected. He rightly earned the call for the Euros, but the role and level of indulgence given to him by Martinez is far from justifiable. With 8+ hours at the Euros, Ronaldo had played more minutes than any of his teammates, barring the goalkeeper Diogo Costa. And yet, Ronaldo failed to score any goal, the one responsibility he's expected to do. There comes a lot of baggage from fielding Ronaldo, and one of them is sacrificing the team's defensive potence, while connected with reducing attacking potential by channeling all the chances to Ronaldo. Yet, all that is going to waste. He takes so many shots, a total of 20, at least 7 more than any other player in the tournament by the time the round of 16 ended, and yet there was no goal return. An entire country's potential is sacrificed at the altar for the sake of one man. And when Ronaldo missed the penalty against Slovenia and was overcome with cheers, all the players came masquerading to lift the fallen hero, tending to his every tears and assuring the idol of who he was and still is. That's quite a sportsmanship and what Portugal did, and that's helping out a teammate. But would that treatment have been given to any other player? And that begs the question, why Martinez still kept him when it was clear Ronaldo was out of his depth? Was it because he truly believed Ronaldo would help the team win? Or because he is the most famous person in the national team? The numbers don't lie, our eyes tell the truth in what we observe, and that is Ronaldo held Portugal back, wasting chance after chance, shot after shot, and he still kept playing. Second half of extra time ended, game went to penalty shootout. Ronaldo buried his shot courageously this time to his own credit, and 5 more kicks later, Portugal had progress to the quarterfinal. But suddenly, it was Hail Ronaldo. The headlines starred him again, and not the true hero who saved a staggering 3 penalties. And even more fascinating is Martinez's analysis of Ronaldo, like a starry-eyed fanboy. I thanked him afterwards for being the way he is, for caring for the group. I was certain that he would be the first penalty taker and show us the way. I think we're all very proud of our captain. He gave us all a lesson. Quite the honing for somebody who had produced the worst display of the match. Goal rated the performance a 3 out of 10. Martinez had every right to hook Ronaldo at halftime, though perhaps the manager has learned from what happens to those who dare to treat Ronaldo like a mere mortal. Fernando Santos dropped him for a perfectly justifiable reason and got the sack, in spite of Portugal displaying their best tournament match in the past 3 competitions. Martinez is merely following the warnings set by precedents. But all this is not to say Ronaldo can't contribute positively to the team. Other greats have taken less starring roles to help in moments of need. Cristiano would have certainly become an irrefutable asset off the bench. Even a more selfless role like his assist to Bruno would have been a truly inspiring dynamic. But we all know that won't happen. Arguably Portugal's best player currently, Bruno, might get hooked, but not Cristiano, cause this isn't the Portugal show. This is the Ronaldo show. Of course, there's a counter-argument though. It's not entirely Ronaldo's fault that the world is so obsessed with him, and Portugal had always indulged Ronaldo in his career too, so why is it a surprise now? Well, the difference is, Ronaldo brought results and goals back then. For all the baggages that came with him, he led them to 10 consecutive major tournaments, the first in their history and also a first Euros in 2016. You can't deny he was the star. Ronaldo's self-belief and desire is immense, but the end justifies the means. If it's not helping you win games, then it's irrelevant. You could have tolerated Ronaldo back then, but now he's out of his depth and causing more problems than providing solutions. So why would you destabilize an entire functioning team for the sake of one man? You have to feel for Portugal and the players. They are reduced to bit parts in the circus. A horde number of gifted attacking players are sacrificed for the ego of an individual. And you wonder as well about the wisdom of taking an immensely talented squad to a World Cup and Euros, and then treating them essentially as a farewell tour for one person. Opportunities to win tournaments, real opportunities, come very rarely. To sacrifice them before the ego of a fading star, no matter how great he once was, seems indefensible. And here comes the truth in what happened at the Slovenia match, where Ronaldo was devastated to tears. It's sad to see him in such a state, but it becomes apparent. Those tears weren't for Portugal. They were for something else. In Mikhail Bulgakov's The Master and Margarita, the Russian author wrote, "Yes, man is mortal, but that would only be half the trouble. The worst of it is he's sometimes unexpectedly mortal. There's a trick." Bulgakov died long before the book was published, unable to see his masterpiece become widely regarded as one of the greatest 20th century novels, recognition he craved while he was alive. But Cristiano Ronaldo has had the privilege of overseeing his monumental imprint on football and pop culture, having hungrily consumed a mountain of team trophies and personal accolades throughout his 2-decade career, a player preternaturally addicted to success. But it has been coming to an end, and Ronaldo had to face up to the reality of his declining powers, his unexpected mortality, something that he seems absolutely unwilling to do. Against Slovenia, having missed a penalty, all of it seemed to have bursted after months and years of bubbling up. For a second, Cristiano Ronaldo looked like he might be on the edge of tears. Then suddenly no, he was over the edge. The floodgates had opened, and he was bowling now, in front of a capacity crowd in Frankfurt and a huge global television audience. Arguably the most famous athlete on the planet was in floods of tears. But the shocking phenomena, there was still a game to be won with 15 minutes yet to play. It was astonishing to witness. Ronaldo had missed penalties before, sometimes in highly pressurized circumstances. He had cried on the pitch before too. Tears of sadness, tears of joy. But this was different, because the game wasn't finished. He was crying not for a lost match, but it seemed, for the waning of his powers. They resembled the tears of a man-teen idol who realized he is facing his final curtain. The Portuguese players formed a huddle and they looked up and saw what looked like a broken man. One by one, they tried to raise him. It is intriguing to see such a legend being so vulnerable, so fallible. For just once, Ronaldo looked human. Incomprehensible to witness the once indestructible machine reduced to tears. But the sympathy does not last much when you remember what's being sacrificed at the altar, whom that sadness was for. 'Cause those tears weren't for Portugal. Ronaldo only cries for himself. It was almost surprising to hear Ronaldo describe this in the post-match mixer zone, but I'm not emotional about that. I'm moved by all that football means, by the enthusiasm I have for the game, the enthusiasm for seeing my supporters, my family, the affection people have for me. It's not about leaving the world of football. What else is there for me to do or win? It's not going to come down to 1 point more or 1 point less. Making people happy is what motivates me the most. What else is there for him to do or win? That didn't seem like Ronaldo, particularly given the scenes we had witnessed through the entire tournament. His reaction to that missed penalty was of someone who feels immense to the pressures of proving himself over and over and over again. Even his choice of words was self-centric. The enthusiasm for seeing my supporters, my family, the affection people have for me. This isn't a selfless love for football or the fans, but a specific message to only those he considers for himself. Was it really altruistic? Would a player that cared for his country designate every free kick for himself, in spite of knowing clearly others were far better suited? 1 free kick scored in his last 60 takes, and yet he keeps hooving those balls to the wall in the crowd. There were free kicks even in a stadium filled with the most hardcore Ronaldo fanboys. He would have been the only one deluded enough to think he can score. One Twitter user perfectly summarized it. How do you reason with someone like this? And then there's a disgust and thawing of the arms whenever he is disposed by his own shortcomings. Remember the scenery he caused when he was substituted in the 2-0 defeat against Georgia? Nobody could be sure why he was even playing, given Portugal had already won the group. So was he lashing out at the humiliating scoreline, or what failing to score in the group phase for the first time in 6 tournaments would mean for his personal statistics? It is hardly unreasonable to lean towards the second interpretation, because those actions align more with someone more focused on his own personal feats and achievements than the team's. And the performances are showing that he is out of his depth. In the opening game against Cesc, he had the fewest touches of any Portuguese player, and up until the quarterfinal, Ronaldo had taken the most shots, 20, 3 more than the entire Scotland team had, and yet scored 2 less than them. Against Slovenia alone, he took 8 shots, the most by any Portugal player, but failed to score from a combined XG of 1.4. The law of probability tells us that a striker on goal drought is eventually going to locate the oasis. The longer it went on, however, the more it became clear that Ronaldo's success rate in Germany was actually due to the loss of being 39 years old. He kept missing chances he previously would have dispatched easily. The fact is, Ronaldo simply isn't the machine he once was. Yet Martinez took a chance upon him up front, then doubled down when he got no return, and then continued doubling down until Portugal's elimination on penalties. It quickly opened up a debate back then. Should Ronaldo keep his starting position in the team? Even though it was clear that he was never going to be dropped. Now that the debate is past tense, it feels even more poignant. Would Portugal have progressed further had they dropped him, or even just subbed him? Or hadn't Diogo Jota been left on the bench for the entire 120 minutes against France? Did Portugal sacrifice this, their golden generation, on account of their obsession with one man? You can't sacrifice a whole nation's potential for one person. Martinez's gamble didn't seem such a long shot at the start of the Euros. Ronaldo had been scoring regularly in qualifying, and the inside story was that he had accepted that the team and the way they played would no longer revolve so completely around him. He was more teammate than a one-man show. But did we really witness that in Germany? Especially with his craven insistence on taking those delusional free kicks and shots. Or wouldn't it have been sensible at some point to recognize that it wasn't working and brought a gifted young player from the bench, or even use Ronaldo off the bench? Ronaldo is raging against time itself, against the dying of the light. Perhaps that's a curse that comes with a mentality and hunger to be the undisputed best, and maybe it's something Ronaldo is bound to live with for the remaining twilight years of his career. Maybe that's a price of an unfathomable desire to be the best. But in any pride with a posse of young males that have come of age, the way the rising stars of the Portuguese squad have, the old leader is forcibly ejected. They do not look after their aged like humankind. They do not allow them to fluff chances and dampen their attacking potential, and then put their consoling arms around them. Exactly how most national teams function. Alan Shearer succeeded Gary Lineker at the 1996 Euros when his time came. Guardiola gave the crown to Messi when he saw the sun setting on Ronaldinho. And Portugal did the same with Luis Figo and gave the number 7 to Ronaldo. That's how succession works. The delicate balance is maintained. We don't know if this is the end of the crazy Ronaldo obsession, but if it is, this wasn't the way to go. It wasn't in a blaze of glory, but with your national team damaging itself because it was so obsessed with you, it never worked out how to get over you. There had been many times over the years when Ronaldo was a player to drag a team back from the brink, from those darkest moments. But at the Euros, he looked just as beaten, not just by Oblak's penalty save, but by the one opponent that catches up with every athlete in the end. Time. But amid all the chaos, there's a certain conundrum that lies with Ronaldo, causing convolution and debate. A certain paradox, one might say. Well, that's the story for another day. Thank you for watching.